I'm going to tell you a story that may or may not be true. At my house, and a friend comes up to the door and knocks on the door and said, "Larry, I got you a car." I said, "Wow." He said, "Yeah, I saw you walking to the grocery store and carrying all those bags back. You can just take the car and put all the groceries in that car and bring it back, and it should be easier." I said, "This is great." So that afternoon, I go off to the grocery store, and as I'm coming back, I got all my groceries in there, and as I'm coming back, my friend's on the porch. He was checking in to see how I liked it. And he saw me, and he comes running out and helps me push the car into the driveway. And I'm getting the groceries out, and he said, "Larry, what's wrong with the car?" And I said, "Oh, it worked great. I put all my groceries in here. One trip, here I am." And he says, "Well, what?" He gets in the car and he takes the keys off the dashboard and puts it in and turns it on. I said, "What's that noise?" But that's the way it feels like when we are looking to use the law of attraction and we don't have the keys. You ever feel that way? You ever get tired of pushing the car? So what I want to ask is, why are you in this room? It's a beautiful day out there. There's a lot of other rooms you could be in. Why are you here today? Raise your hand. Raise your hand. Yes. Did you raise your hand? Yeah.
Because I want the law of attraction to work good for me.
You want the law of attraction to work good for you. How many people want that? Yeah? What were you going to say? To learn what the obstacles are. How many are interested in that? What else? Yes. Have a good time. I love it. How many are here for a good time? Yeah. Back there.
I'm here to learn how to use the laws of attraction to attain my goals and my desires.
To use the law of attraction to attain my desires and goals. Absolutely. Well, first of all, we're going to be going on a little ride here as we look at this as an adventure in learning. An adventure through all the parts of us that are included in this journey. A little bit about me. I am a unique, individualized expression of the ceaseless, restless, creative force of this universe. And my goal, my mission is to expand and love, success, abundance, creativity, and spirit. And my mission is to help assist and inspire others to do the same. To move them from inertia to inspiration. That's what I'm about. I do that as a transformational coach, and that transformation can take many forms. So I'm privileged to be here today and to be offering what I know. I offer a perspective, and it may not be your perspective. It may not be anything you've heard before, and that's okay. I just offer my perspective. So one of the things that I use in my programs is a system called the Anatomy of Success. It's really a metaphor, just a metaphor, for all the components that come together for our success, along with the law of attraction. And if we look at the body, there are different pieces, and first one is the mindset. What is my mindset? Another story that may or may not be true. I woke up in the middle of the night, was not able to sleep well, and I was passing by a mirror, and I stopped and looked in the mirror, and I had this question pop into my head. How much longer do you think you can last? And the answer came to me right away. I said a week, maybe 2. You see, I was in a hospital awaiting my diagnosis, the pathology report of what kind of cancer I might have. I had a tumor in my chest the size of a grapefruit that was giving me congestive heart failure, collapsed the lung. The other one was filled with fluid. Collapsed my esophagus, collapsed a vein to my head so that I passed out, and in severe pain. I didn't sleep more than 15 minutes at a time for weeks. The doctor said I was pretty much on point there. 2 to 4 weeks is what they said if I didn't receive some help. But at this point, I didn't know what kind of cancer I had. But I was looking forward to knowing. I was excited. Because the next thing out of my mouth was, well, let's see what we can do about that. Because my mindset was, if I had a 50% chance, that I'm going to be in the 50% that survives. If I had a 5% chance, I'm going to be in the 5% that survives. That was my mindset. Another part is our heart. What is it that matters to us? How much does that affect what we do? And especially the law of attraction. Our gut, our intuition, our connection to the universe, of the infinite intelligence that's always available, as well as our subconscious processing of all the things that have gone around us and all the learning that we've done. It's all there, the intuition. The vision, such a key part of the law of attraction, right? Our visioning, our ability to imagine what isn't here yet. Our spine, which represents our courage and our strategy. In a very practical sense, our strategy. The courage is about being vulnerable to our dreams. To be vulnerable enough to actually say, this is what I want. So many of my clients are not able to even imagine anything but a little more of what I've got now. No major dreams. Along the back there is the decision point. I used to look at this picture and say, where's that headed to? But it's not that end, it's the other end. The Achilles heel of our life is our decision making. Our decision, even in the law of attraction, deciding this is what I want. This is what I can envision. This is what's for me. Decision. And then action. Even the Quakers say, pray, then move your feet. Action is important. So the first obstacle we have is our brain. Part of the challenge of that is that the red part there is called the amygdala. It is called the lizard brain because even a lizard has one. It is the furthest back our brain goes evolutionary-wise. And it gets triggered by fear, anxiety, panic, sadness, frustration. All of these things triggers the amygdala, and then the amygdala takes over our brain. We do not have access to our frontal cortex when the amygdala is triggered. You ever feel like you don't have your mind, your brain? It's because you don't. The amygdala is taken over, and there you are. And it's looking for a way to respond. Actually, not respond, but react. Because what it does is it looks for a similar situation. That blue part is where the hippocampus is. And the hippocampus is our memory, what we remember. So the amygdala goes to the hippocampus and looks for a file that looks similar to the situation that we're in that moment. And it ruffles through and he says, does this look like it? Yeah, that looks like it. Okay, what did I do last time? Okay, I'll do that again. I'm going to react out what I did before. So this is the obstacle. Now, when we want to access the frontal cortex, it's a simple process of asking a question. Because the amygdala doesn't want questions. It only wants to react. It only wants the answer. Give me the answer. It's right here. I'll just do what I've done before. But when we go to the frontal cortex, we get to respond. And respond comes from the Latin pense, which means to think. So we get to rethink when we can get outside of the amygdala, when we can get the amygdala to release its stranglehold on us. And we do that by asking a simple question such as, who do I want to be in this situation? Who do I want to be? Or what if? What if I wasn't trapped by this idea? What if I could think beyond this? What if somebody wasn't doing X? What if is another question that allows us access to the frontal cortex. Because we have a superhighway of thinking in our brains. We need to build new superhighways. And I don't know about you, but I've never seen barrels go up and come down the next day. It takes a while. See, I'm a very realistic person about the law of attraction. I realize what I'm living in. This is a human experience. I am a spiritual being living in a spiritual universe governed by spiritual laws. And it's a human experience. It's a duality between the spiritual and our own consciousness as human beings. As I hate to say victims, but as at the vagaries of our brain, this brain that is 50,000 years old. The brain is 50,000 years old evolutionary-wise. Someone told me that it actually 2,000 to 5,000 years ago there was a major shift that allowed us to progress as we are. And yet we still have many of the mechanics of the old 50,000-year-old brain whose only concern was surviving the next attack by a saber-toothed tiger. It was constantly on the outlook for it. That's why we are always looking for the negative. That's another obstacle. An obstacle that we have is called the upper limit problem. And that comes from, well, let's say, what is a thermostat? When it's on the air conditioning setting, what is it supposed to do? Keep us at the same level, right? So what if it gets warm? The air conditioning goes up. The air conditioning comes on, brings the temperature back down, right? That's what our brain does when we experience success. Isn't that crazy? I want success, but if I get it, I'm going to sabotage myself. How many of you experience that? Myself? Yeah. So this is one of the other obstacles to our law of attraction. It's a natural tendency. Even I was reading about this in a book, even the president of Dell Computers was sabotaging themselves. And what happens is we don't sabotage ourselves necessarily in the area that we were looking for success, but some other part of our lives. People that get successful in money have a tendency to ruin their relationships or their health. I know somebody who improved their health, lost 120 pounds, let their business run downhill. This is what we have to watch out for. And how do we do that? We watch out for it. With awareness comes change. Without awareness, we are stuck. With awareness, change is inevitable. So if we're aware, we can say, oh, here it comes again. I was expecting you. And we can then look at how we are successful. Wallow in our success. Make it a natural part of our psyche. Success. My nature is success. That's one of my affirmations. Did you have a question?
For the balance?
Because I know what you're saying, like you know, people, you're successful one thing and you lose the other end, so there are obstacles to us, how to balance it.
Well, just like I said, is to focus on the feeling of success. It's a good feeling, right? So as Abraham says, move to a better feeling thought. Well, the feeling of sabotage isn't too good, but we move back to, I am worthy of this success. Does that make sense? Did you have a question?
Really, like, is it possible to have it all? 'Cause like,
Yes.
like sometimes, you know, they say when you do good in one area, you like it in the other one. Like, is it possible to have it all?
Is it possible to have it all? Yes, it is. It is. But without this awareness,
I mean, the happiness, the health, I want it all.
exactly.
See, other people have sadness. You don't have to have it too. It's out there in the world. You don't have to.
I mean, I can't say
experience
this
it.
because I'm human, but I want success. I want to be successful, like in business, in my marriage. Yeah. Like,
Absolutely.
I want to have good health. I want
And now you know. Now you know what can happen. And you are now aware. You can see it coming. You can change the world, your world. Because it's your world. That's the only one. It's your world. So the upper limit problem, if we don't keep an eye on it, it can just implode on us. All right, mindset. I mentioned my mindset as I was in that hospital. And another situation that occurred, by the way, as of April 1st, I am celebrating 18 years of survival. So that's a spoiler alert. I did live. But a few years after that, I was in the hospital again, and the doctor comes to me after the surgery and he says, well, it's a lot worse than I thought. Not words you want to hear from your doctor. They try to be a little optimistic, don't they? Well, it turns out that the chemotherapy had caused heart damage. And he had just done an angiogram. He was pretty certain from the way I was walking around and living that it wasn't as bad as the test had shown until he saw the angiogram. He says, yeah, it's worse than I thought. He said, I don't know what we're going to do. I'm going to try this and that, but it didn't work. And he says, well, that's it. You know, if it gets any worse, we'll put you on the list for a heart transplant. And I said, well, now we're going to do things my way. I wasn't settling for that. That was a mindset. And 4 years later, he's like, I don't know how you did it. You went from 15% to 53%. You went from borderline heart transplant. You could go run a race now. So it was about mindset. What is your mindset about what you want? And sometimes our own mind can get in the way. What matters is the heart. The heart. What is it that we're passionate about? You know, what is the feeling that we have about that thought? Because every feeling is attached to a thought. Almost every feeling. Feelings are attached to thoughts. So one of the challenges I see is when Abraham says, just move to a better feeling thought. And I'm like, but this one is so big. See, imagine that a thought is like a brick, and that the brick has a balloon attached to it. That's my feelings. What is the balloon? And every time I pick up that brick, I blow up the balloon some more. And you ever have one of those thoughts that has a balloon that's bigger than the room? I've got to deal with that. Move to a better thinking thought, yes. But what if I can reduce the power of that feeling? So that's one of the exercises I love to do. And this is an exercise I've read in several references, included Eckhart Tolle and Thich Nhat Hanh. And Would you like to experience it right now? Would you like to do that? So think of a brick. Think of a thought that has a really heavy feeling with it. Maybe not the heaviest, not like your marriage or extended family. Something simpler. Something kind of simple, because we're not going to do this for too long. So the thing I'd like you to do is get settled in your chair and close your eyes and start breathing deeply into your belly. And breathe out. Let it go. Try to be here present. Notice the sounds in this room besides my voice. Notice the chair beneath you, the clothes on your skin, the air, the light still peeking through your eyelids. And be still for a moment. And as you think this thought, notice the feeling. Oh, you can feel that feeling. Can you name that feeling? Give it a name. Anger, frustration, despair. Pick a name, just one. Oh yeah, there are some other feelings that go with it, but pick one. So what we're going to do now is untie the string to the brick, the thought. We're going to move the thought outside the room, out the door. It's sitting there. Nobody else is going to pick it up. Don't worry. So you're with the balloon, the feeling, the one word, just the feeling without the thought. Don't go back and chew on the thought. Sit there with that feeling. Now feel it fully. Let it fill you. Feel the full breath of that balloon. Feel it kind of swell some more, just in experiencing this feeling to its fullness. Allow it to expand. Allow it to have this moment completely with all of your attention. Just that one word. What is that feeling? Stay in that feeling. Sink into that feeling. A feeling is yours. It's a beautiful part of you. Allow it to fill, expand. Allow it to transmute. One last look at that feeling, that word. And let it go, let it float, let it rise, let it leave. Come back to this room. So Eckhart Tolle says that we want to do this on a regular basis. We want to gradually bring down the size of that balloon. Every time we bring it out, we focus on that balloon. We allow it its time. We give it a couple minutes. And when I read this, I thought he was crazy. He said, sometimes that feeling will turn into bliss. Right. This feeling of anger is going to turn into bliss. And it did. It did, on occasion. Not all the time, but on occasion. Pure bliss was the result. Now, it takes time, 5 to 10 minutes. Not everybody has that kind of patience. And then I'm free. free to move to my desires, my dreams, my goals. The law of attraction. Because as Abraham says, we can't hold the concept of our dream along with anger. It's a resistance. We have this resistance that we can create. Intuition is our connection to the universe's intelligence. Do you trust yourself? I mean, I'm not talking morally, ethically, that sort of thing. I'm talking about, do you trust your intuition? Do you trust the voice that you hear? Absolutely. You're one of the lucky ones. The first time somebody asked me that, I said, hell no. I do not trust myself. I don't listen to that voice.
I'm a nurse, so when you get those gut feelings, there's all kinds of ways you know to trust that.
So part of one story that a mentor of mine had was that they were working with somebody in a partnership for a business. And they sat down and for 3 hours they were working on this business model and the marketing and all this stuff. They were really excited. And she left there, and as she's driving away, her stomach starts hurting. And it gets worse and worse until she has to pull over and throw up. And she said, there's something wrong with this picture. She called the guy and said, I'm sorry, I must have made a mistake. This isn't going to work. Immediately she felt better. That's as physical as it can get. And it's really important for us to pay attention. Our body is a barometer of what we know is possible. Our body is a barometer. Pay attention, and our intuition will help us. I try to trust my intuition now, especially in my coaching practice. My intuition is what helps me to help people. Pitfalls. These are our ways of thinking. Some of the pitfalls I have around money is something I heard, only bad people have money. I mean, I'm sure we each have another pitfall around money alone, or about relationship. So we need to know what these pitfalls are. We need to know what the signal is, the flag is that goes up that says, this is my pitfall coming into this situation. And then say, well, we're not going to follow that one. We find an antidote. Each of us individually, when I work with my clients, that's what we do. We find the antidote to that pitfall so we don't have to keep going down the hole. So visioning, the biggest part of the law of attraction. Why is visioning hard? One of the reasons is there's so much evidence to the contrary. I have this dream, but look at this. I have this dream, look at this. I'm looking at this. I'm looking around me at what is present. And that keeps me from dreaming, from looking at my goal, from visioning it, seeing it fully in all its glory. But there's a secret that I learned, and it started back when I was an artist, by the way. I was an artist for 20 years, making my own pottery. I took a salon that was about the artist of the 19 teens. And I didn't realize the person leading the salon, she had given us chapters from the book. And the chapters, I didn't notice the title of the book. But she was going on about, this is talking about the artists and their explorations, and that there was this idea of the fourth dimension. I'm like, the fourth dimension? What is she talking about? So in the book was actually called The Spirituality of Art. In the 19 teens, the artists, Duchamp, Picasso, etc., were looking at the concept of the fourth dimension as an underlying fabric of the universe. So that in their perception, when you saw those Cubist paintings, they were essentially trying to show that you could have this view at the same time you had this view, as you had this view at the same time. Because from the fourth dimension, all of that was accessible. Every view was accessible. Every moment in time was accessible. And Abraham talks about the vortex, where we are creating what we dream of. So that for me is a connection to the fourth dimension. It's a spiritual dimension that is non-temporal, non-local, that allows us to imagine, to vision in that dimension, in that concept of something that is underlying the entire universe. And as we create the vibration around that, it can then be created in this physical universe. It is the substance. The fourth dimension is the substance of everything that's here. Vibration, the idea that if you have two tuning forks of the same key, one you tap one, the other one starts ringing. Now for me that was like, oh, okay, that makes sense, but it's in the same room. That means it's on this physical plane, and it's like, well, wait a minute, I don't have the tuning fork in this world to create something in this world. But if I can create the tuning fork in the fourth dimension, it has all the power to create in this dimension. I don't have to worry about how it happens. It's magic. It's pure magic. So our visioning doesn't have to be limited by the evidence that's right here. This evidence means nothing to the vision that we can create in the fourth dimension. That's my perspective. So as we do create our bridge to where we want our dream, it's as ethereal as this. It's just an idea. It's out there in the blue. It's in the fourth dimension. Strategy and courage. Courage is about having the vulnerability to make that dream, to create that dream in our heads, to believe in it, to have faith in it, to create that process. Strategy is about how we make the steps to get there. Again, the Quakers. Pray, then move your feet. And if you have a plan, it's much more likely to happen. And using the intuition, we can create that plan. And then we need to decide. One of our biggest obstacles in the decision is the I know syndrome. I know that. But do we do something with it? I was reading this book. It was a great book on relationships. And every chapter had this exercise at the end, and I'd read through the exercise. Oh, that's a really good exercise. I'll do that later. Let me go on. Oh, that's a good exercise. All the way to the end of the book. I started reading the book again. That's still a good exercise. And about the third chapter, the second time through, I said, Larry, that's the I know syndrome. I know, I get that. I get that. But until we do, until we decide to do it, we're just playing at I know about that. I don't know it. I know about that. There's 3 levels of spirituality. There's understanding, knowing, and experience. We want that top one, experience. Understanding is you're hearing something, maybe some of this for the first time, maybe not, I don't know. And you're going, wow, that's interesting. Or you have an aha moment. Now you understand. But knowing is when it becomes a part of your mental lexicon that you use on a daily basis. And experience is when it actually is part of your own experience. When my dog was getting older, I didn't have to keep him on a leash when I went for a walk. And I live on this little country road with this creek along the road and woods all up here. And I started realizing that you know, when he was on a leash, I had to stop when he stopped. And I could pay attention to the things around me. Because when I was walking, I was pretty much like this. And then after he didn't need his leash, I didn't stop anymore. I said, you know, I need to stop. I need to pay attention to what's around me. What is present? What's here right now? So I started doing this. I took cues from my dog. I wasn't stopping for the same reasons that he did. But it just was an excuse. Okay, let's stop. He's smelling something. Okay, let's look around. And my walks got a lot more meditative. And I would keep my eyes up while I was walking. I became present. I became aware. And one day I stopped and looked at the hillside. Same old hillside, nothing new. I'd lived there for 25 years. But something changed. Now, it used to be I could tell that when I would stop, I would start analyzing. Oh, look at that tree compared to that tree. Look at this, look at that. Look at that bird. What kind of bird is that? It looks sort of like that kind of bird. But this, as I went, I said, there's too much thinking going on here. Let's just stop. And I was looking at the hillside, and suddenly the whole world changed. And I was looking at infinity. I was looking at eternal love. And I was looking at myself because I wasn't separate from it. And I was experiencing this now moment like Eckhart Tolle talks about. I have no idea how long I was standing there. By the time I came to, my dog was sitting here waiting for me because it had been so long. And I took that time to experience the now moment. It was a decision that got me there. Then there's action. Oh no, action. We do have to take action. We have to take action on our dreams. Yes, they'll show up. I was in a prosperity class where we were talking about, imagine your dream car. Imagine owning this, like suddenly it was yours. And I was like, oh man, that's so cool. You know, when I was in high school, I'd sit in the library and read Hot Rod magazine. Man, I was into cars. So I was like, well, what'll it be? A BMW, a Jaguar, a Maserati? I don't know. What do I pick? And then what if I got it? Then I have to worry about maintenance. How much is maintenance on a car like that? What if I got a dent in it? I'd be mortified. You know what would be cool? Somebody gave me the keys to their dream car for 7 days. I'd drive all over the U.S. Give the keys back. Another part of the exercise was, where would you like to go? Now, I'd been to Europe, so I was thinking, I want to go back to Europe. But, you know, Europe costs a lot of money. I'd been there on a tour, so I didn't have $3,000. I'd been there on an art exchange, so that's really cheap, but there were no more art exchanges at that time. Jeez, you know, I really don't, it's just a dream. Evidence. And I said, well, you know, it'd be cool. A friend called me up and said, hey, I'm going to Europe for almost nothing. You want to go? That'd be cool, wouldn't it? That's a great idea. Wow. There's no way I could make that happen. A friend calls me up 3 months later and says, hey, I'm going to Europe. You want to go? Almost nothing, $400 round trip, free car, free apartment.
They got the car to drive too.
They got the car to drive. So we land in Germany. I never thought I'd go to Germany. That wasn't on my list. I said Europe, but you know, the universe knows better, right? So we're going to the car. My friend's brother was there on business, and so he had the car, he had the apartment, picked us up at the airport, and he says, I traded in the car because I wanted you guys to have GPS. Cool. So we got an upscale on the car. And he says, Larry, would you like to be the driver? Because, I'm going to be in school all week, so you can drive everybody around. I said, that's a great way to repay them for giving me this great trip. So we pull up to the car with our luggage and clicks the trunk button, and the nameplate says Jaguar. Did I say we were in Germany? What's the name of the highway in Germany?
Yes.
Autobahn. So I'm driving for a week around Germany in a Jaguar at over 100 miles an hour. Better than my dream. Because I let go of it. I didn't create resistance around this dream. I let it go. I didn't allow evidence to drag down my dream. But when the person called me, they said, my sister says we can go to Europe for almost nothing. Should I go? And I said, you'd be crazy not to go. And she goes, yeah, I guess you're right. You want to go? I was thinking of all sorts of excuses why I shouldn't go. I had to take action. I had to make a decision. One of the things I know is horses are like people. One horse can pull 2,000 pounds. Two horses can pull 21,000 pounds together. That's the way it is in my coaching business. It's a miracle, the work that people do when I'm with them. Not because I'm the sharpest knife in the drawer, trust me, I'm not, but because this is how it works.